I will ask them questions to understand their worldview and their paradigm, and almost a good majority of the time, the linguistics that they're using are what is creating the stuckness, not what's actually occurring in their lives.
What if you could snap your fingers and be living your absolute dream life? Sounds a bit far-fetched, doesn't it? But do you really know what's standing between you right now and the life that you really want to be living? Do you know how to actually be able to get out of your own way, to be able to clear those roadblocks so that you can fast track to be living the life that you really want? Well, we sit down with Preston Smiles today in this episode to really talk exactly this. Preston, he's a dude. He's an amazing dude, a remarkable man. And I'm so happy to be sharing this episode with you because we really peel back what it really takes to be able to be our best selves. How to be not happy, but fulfilled, have meaning, have purpose, and really ensuring that we're loving ourselves when we wake up in the mornings and when we put our heads on our pillows at the end of the night as well. So if you're joining us on the podcast right now, I'd love for you to go join us also on the YouTube channel so you'll be able to see this amazing conversation unfold with us on camera as well. And if you're going to share this out on social, which I would love for you to share this out on social, please tag myself and Preston as well, as I'd love to hear and know what it is that you've been able to take away from this episode. And also, I would love to personally say thank you for joining us as well.
I want to say thank you first, Preston, because I've had so many mutual friends say, I have to talk with you. So finally, me being here right now in your presence, I'm really pumped. I was really thinking about this all this morning because there are so many elements to what I see that you are really, really goddamn good at that I want to be able to pull those threads today. But just like what we were talking about before we hit the record button, redefining success, I think, is something that is crucial today to help give people certainty and to help lower the pressure and the noise on what they currently have as well. So I'd love to know, firstly, like when it comes to success, what's the internal dialogue that you have for you to create that life for yourself?
I mean, this is such a big question, but I'll start with one of the things I'm constantly asking myself is, for the sake of what? Right? I am doing this for the sake of what? What is the end result that I'm trying to get to? And is that end result something that I have consciously desired, or is this something that was fed to me? So I'm gonna do a little breakdown so you understand like how I think around this particular subject. So in my opinion, there's 4 aspects of what it means to be human, right? So we are biological beings, right? That's number 1, right? Biofeedback, all kind of crazy cells dancing in our bodies. We are linguistic beings, number 2, which means we build worlds with our language. Everything we do is in language. Without the distinction of door and doorknob, trying to get out of the room, language, would be very difficult. But the moment I have language for it, it opens up possibilities. Number 3, and this is the most crucial one when it comes to success, is we are social and historical beings, born into beliefs and interpretations. So I was born into beliefs around money, right? That money is the root of all evil, that rich people are crooked and dirty and X, Y, and Z. All of us were born into beliefs and interpretations, and until we face off with that and bring conscious awareness to the beliefs and interpretations that we were born into, we will always operate from that level of consciousness, right? I was coaching someone yesterday, and I'll get to number 4. I was coaching someone yesterday, and I was explaining to her, because she hired her mother to run the accounting. And I said, if you allow your mother's consciousness to run this company, you will only have what she's ever had, right? Because more than likely, what she's experiencing is based on what her mother experienced, and her mother and her mother and her mother. And so at some point, we, as conscious choice makers, have to break the cycle, not because we hate or dislike, but because we are conscious choice makers. So for me, the first place to start is to get your questions answered and then your answers questioned, right? We very rarely stop and say, okay, this is an of course, right? Of course you do business like this. Of course you parent like this. Of course you do X, Y, and Z. But have we ever stopped and looked at the of course and said, but is that true? Is that a fact? Or is that a philosophy that I've taken on as a fact? And so the moment we can create any space between us and a philosophy, we instantly have an opening. And with that opening, we begin to ask deeper questions and really probe for the sake of what? I am wanting more money, right? Humans have this interesting thing where it's more, better, different. More money, better car, different situation. We're always constantly chasing the next high, right? Gotta get high again, right? We're constantly chasing more, better, different. And so for the sake of what? Most people already are experiencing heaven on earth, but they have all these blocks because they're constantly chasing the next carrot. And so for me, that question instantly opens up the space. And for those of you thinking, what's number four? Number four is we are quantum beings. So that's the beginning of my conversation around success.
Dude, I love this. Okay, let me pull the threads right now.
Let's go.
I actually want to first go back to the linguistic.
Yes.
Last night I was reading an Alan Watts book, The Taboo of Knowing Yourself, and he was talking about language and how the Eskimos have 5 different words for snow and the Aztecs have one word that describes snow, hail, and rain, and how obviously the difference between the nuance someone can have because of the language that they're using in that.
Yes.
And I find this fascinating because when it comes down to, well, like the language that I use is what shapes my world.
Yes.
So I need to be conscious of how I'm shaping my world. I would love to know, and maybe if we can kind of like delve into the coaching rabbit hole right now with it. When you're coaching someone or even coaching yourself, I call it like self-parenting. When you're self-parenting yourself, how are you consciously choosing the language that you're using? And then we'll go from there.
Powerful thought that you're bringing forward. So for me and the people I coach, one of the things that I'm constantly reminding them of is removing absolutes out of their language. That by itself will change your entire world, right? For myself, whenever I'm having any experience, I will almost always add ... for now, right? So I'm experiencing all this anger for now, right? Just that for now opens up the space for the possibility of something else being there. Humans, people come to me all the time, I'm stuck. Are you though? Let's find out, right? And so I will ask them questions to understand their worldview and their paradigm, and almost a good majority of the time, the linguistics that they're using are what is creating the stuckness, not what's actually occurring in their lives. So someone will say, you know, like everything is just like falling apart. And I'll say, okay, well, let's find out, right? So did you eat today? Yeah, of course I ate. Okay, that's awesome. Is your like iPhone bill paid? Yeah, of course my iPhone bill. Oh, that's interesting, right? Just out of curiosity, are there people who love you right now? Yes, there are. And I'm like, okay, well, if you wanted to, could you go take a trip? Well, yes. Okay, so let's go back to everything is falling apart. Is it true, like a fact, like a capital T truth, that everything is falling apart? Well, no, I guess not. And the truth is that, like, I'm just really upset with my boyfriend. And I'm like, okay, so what you're saying is that you have a should about how your relationship should be. Your boyfriend is not meeting that should in the way you think he should. And now the experience of everything is falling apart. Your body is listening to that. The cells of your body is listening. It doesn't speak English, but it speaks frequency. And the frequency of everything is falling apart may not be conducive to that which you truly desire. And so for me, it's about helping them see with the 50,000 foot view, right? Like the chaos theory, they say that if you pull far enough back, you'll see the fundamental order of everything. Right? It looks like chaos, but the truth is there's so much order to this beautiful universe that we currently live in. And so language is gigantic on every single level. And my number one thing is taking out absolutes. If you pull out the absolutes and you ride the wave of understanding that every storm that has ever come has always come and gone, and that we live on a planet that is governed by laws. We have no issues with the law of gravity. Everybody's, oh yeah, gravity. But do we understand the law of magnetism? Do we understand the law of circulation? Do we understand that there are seasons and cycles that are occurring on our planet, and we are not separate from nature, we are nature? And so when somebody has that level of consciousness understanding, then they can start to see the beauty and the nuance, right? Like for me, I've been going through a season of grief, a season of what would be considered heaviness, right? A dark night of the soul. And yet it doesn't occur to me as dark. What it occurs to me as is interesting, right? I'm being with this sadness different, right? I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but like to find joy in the sadness, it's the weirdest thing to be like, I am crying, my heart feels broken, and yet this is powerful, right? Like, just to feel. And for me, Chris, I've had the good fortune of seeing people die bloody deaths, right? I've seen and been with somebody when their brains are splattered out the back of their head and they're writhing for just another breath. And so when you have that experience, you have 4 children, right? Epic. Birthdays, yay. When a child is born, everybody celebrates birth. But very rarely do we celebrate death days, right? And so for me, because I've had the experience of being with somebody at the end of that iteration, in that skin suit, and to be holding them, but they aren't in there, it is a reminder that all of this is transitory and that we are not these skin suits. We are borrowing them. We are using these vehicles, these vessels to express and experience God. But this is not who I am. I am not this skin suit. I've seen it with my own eyes. I'm isness dancing. I'm consciousness in a space for now. And when I leave this container, I'll be able to float and fly anywhere. That's my philosophy, at least.
I love this, dude. Okay.
I know I said a lot.
No, this is great. The Japanese have a word to describe an emotion, yugen, which cannot be described in the English language. And what I pick up from you and what I love from you is you have a mastery in investigation. I definitely take this from like my Buddhist studies, where it's like we want awareness. A lot of people want awareness. We meditate, we do mindfulness practice. It's because we want to cultivate the skill of awareness, but awareness isn't the end goal. We want awareness so that we can investigate. And for me, I want to ask 2 questions. Is it true? You've touched upon that. And is it useful?
Yes.
Because something can be true, but it doesn't have to be useful right now for me to be able to do something. When it comes to being able to be aware of an emotion and to be able to investigate, to go deeper into it, so then you can act appropriately moving forward, how do you help someone do that?
So there's emotional intelligence and then there's emotional fitness, and there's emotional agility, right? And these are three different understandings, three different embodiments. Most people stop at emotional intelligence, which is important, right? To understand what is an emotion. For me, I define emotions as energy in and on the body. It is transitory. They are and could be considered a compass for what is trying to be birthed in that moment. So taking the emotion of anger, right? And let's do it like we know there's primary colors, there's primary emotions, and there's offshoots of every single emotion. But for the sake of this conversation, there's 5 core emotions: anger, fear, sadness, joy, sexual feelings. Everything else is a offshoot of those in iteration. The emotion of anger has gotten a bad rap in our society. My truth, with the lowercase t, not capital, is that anger shows up, one, in a particular part of the body, right? That we are and have not transcended the skin suits as of yet. We are still reptilian animals. And so I notice that when anger is there, my jaw clenches, my hands, all of these things occur, right? There's a book, I forget who wrote it, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers or something.
Not Bruce Lipton. I know, yeah,
Yes.
it starts with a Z. I know you do, yeah, yes. Great book, yes.
And a bunch of other ones that I've read and studied. But the point I'm trying to make here is, going back to what you said, what is this trying to show me? How do I want to use this? And so anger in its healthy expression could be pointing to something that needs to be burned down, right? Something that needs to be eliminated from one's life so that something new can grow forward, right? And so I often use my anger to create, right? Some of my best videos, some of my best content on the internet was, maybe 3 minutes after I was having a fight with my wife or going through something around an event. And so for me, there's understanding the definition of emotions, and then there's like being able to move through them, and then there's being able to use them, which is agility, right? Like when we get to that level, now I am co-creating with the emotion. And so for me, it's not about transcending the human experience, it's about using it. It's about riding the wave that is currently here and asking myself, how do I want to be with this wave? Most people grew up, especially in Western cultures, grew up in households where one or maybe all of those 5 core emotions were not acceptable, right? For instance, someone may have grown up in a house where anger was destructive. Anger equals abuse. Anger equals breakup, equals divorce, equals pain. And so they will repress and deny that aspect of themselves in order to not experience that trauma all over again. And so what I do with my clients and with people I'm working with is I help them unkink the hose so that the flow is possible. Because if we kink and fold the hose on anger, we're also kinking it and folding the hose on joy. We're also folding it on our sexual feelings. We're folding it on all the gamut of emotions. And so people come to me and they say, I want to make more money. I want to grow my business. I want to do this. I want to be successful. And I'm like, okay, well, let's look at what's going on in your personal life. Because as we know, the inner world almost always dictates the outer world, right? As above, so below, as within, so without. And so learning to ride the wave of our emotions and be in a sacred conversation with them while simultaneously understanding, and this is the point I want to make here, that we are not them, right? This is the game is enough separation. Because the moment we start identifying with emotions. I am sad. I am depressed. I am an angry person. I am X. I am Y. That becomes a little tiny prison and a part of a mask and an identity that we begin to wear that creates a role. And then we play that role so much that we don't know the distinction between who we truly are and what we became as a safety mechanism, as a strategy to stay safe in this dangerous world.
I love you, dude.
Yes.
When you name me, you negate me. And I think that's really interesting because if we are having less of an attachment to the labels that we have upon ourselves, we are then open. If we take responsibility, we are then open to be able to do something more effective moving forward with it.
Yes.
You've said a few times in this conversation that I really love, and you used the analogy of a wave. And the things that you've brought up a couple times was, this isn't me.
Mm-hmm.
And if I sit in meditation and I look for the seat of attention, there is nothing there. And the not finding is the finding.
Yes.
Now I talk to the experiential level of someone, not, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This is a hard fact of it.
Mm.
How did you come upon the realization that you're beyond this body, you're beyond the current beliefs that you have, that you're beyond the life that you're living now?
Yeah. It's a big question. What I'll say is that my belief is that God, isness, conscious awareness, divine intelligence, Buddha, Krishna, Jesus, Allah, source, can only do for me what it can do through me. And I believe that my purpose, which is the same as everyone else's, is to reflect and reveal God's love in the unique way that only I can. And so using the I guess this is a metaphor of snowflakes. If there's not a single snowflake that is designed exactly as the other, and yet each snowflake serves its purpose, how are we different? I have my clients, I do this all the time. I say, if you can look at a rainbow and go, oh, right? If you can look at a new baby and go, oh, if you can have an experience with a little baby puppy where you're like, this is cuteness overload. If you can have that, then you get to have it about you. Because the entity that we have named God is having the same experience about us. It is wanting us to remember that there isn't a leaf on this plant, nor a hair on my head, nor anything that is occurring on this planet that is outside of its love. And so for me, it is a blasphemy for me not to be in ownership of the gift of this particular life. I don't believe that any of us can fail. I fundamentally believe there is no such thing as failure. That all roads lead to the same place. Some roads are a little more bumpy for a season. Some are, I speak to my dad. For a good portion of my life, I've been extremely upset with my dad. Mad at him for not being like the dads on TV. Mad at him for battling his own demons with drug use and things of that nature. The older I get, and the older I got while he was on the planet, the more I started to realize that I couldn't stop his dharma. that what he came here to experience was his, not mine. And that we are all like an acacia forest, all planted in the same soil, although it looks like we are individual trees. And so my job in that forest is not to judge another tree and how it leans towards the sun, how it dances in the isthmus. My job is to be present and germinate in the soil. My job is to play, express, and experience the wellspring of life that is constantly trying to express through me. My job is to be present to the presence and create that which is tapping me on the shoulder. Right? We all hear it. There's a still small voice that's always speaking, and it's we miss the opportunity when we're caught in the lie, the weapon of mass distraction that is called the cell phone. This virus of the mind where we think we're actually separate. For me, my recognition is that the fruit doesn't belong to the tree. The fruit belongs to the ecosystem. I think it was Zig Ziglar that said, if you make room for your gifts will make room for you. And the Gnostic Gospels of Thomas, Jesus said, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. But if you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. That for me is the ethos. That's the wave I ride, right? What is here that is trying to be expressed? Because there's no mistakes in God. Last one. In Conversations with God, Book 1, God said, you cannot have what you want, but you may experience what you have. And I remember reading that and just being stunned at the depth of that statement. Tell me what you hear.
Last year, I had depression, and it felt like I was in a deep, dark ocean, and I was just keeping my head above water, having suicidal ideation. And the thing that kept going through my head initially was, I should not feel like this because I have a multi-million-dollar business. I have an amazing family. I have an amazing wife. I'm in great physical health and shape. I was ticking the boxes to life. Yeah. And I felt like someone had lied to me because I was like, I'd done it. Like, look, I did the list, dude. Do you know what I mean? And it sent me on an amazing journey that leads me to here right now. And a part of that where I see, and I love that you shared that from the Conversations of God, because for me, what I'm picking up is, how do we feel worthy of how an apple tree apples?
Yes.
The universe peoples, and we're a part of it. How do we feel worthy when we're not feeling worthy? Because that's been a core wound for me for a very long time. Dealing with over 2 years of psychotherapy, seeing all the healers, seeing all the stuff, doing all the psychedelics and everything like that. It's interesting to have this conversation and to see you mirror so beautifully back what goes through this. And so I feel like a big part of it is, it's caused, that feeling that I had was caused, I think it was caused from a few reasons. And I want to open up here because I want to see what you can reflect back and help me with as well. Yeah. But a big part of this is a case of, when is enough enough? Why do I have to strive for more money, for more achievements, for more accolades? Why can't I just be happy in the present here, now? And what is it that needs to happen so that I can be content and fulfilled?
Yes.
What comes up for you with that?
It's just a common theme amongst us all, self included. And I just want to say congratulations for even the awareness that that's what the operating system was doing. Most of my clients, most of the people I work with have that same story. And they come to me because I had that same story. I just broke it and am still experiencing. I still get to keep and have the toys for now. But the toys don't own me. Right? I'm constantly teaching my students there's only 2 games ever happening. One game is the outside in game. That one says that cars, money, titties, booty, abs, muscles, likes, comments, money, X, Y, Z. When those things are in place, I feel good about me. I am worthy. And I explained that that's no different than the setup. Remember, we are social and historical beings born into beliefs and interpretations. Well, children are egocentric. And when anything is occurring in their lives, and we have hundreds of traumas that occur before we even get to age 9, right? So whatever your mom, dad, caregiver, primary caregiver, school, religion, all of those things play a part in the shame and the trauma that we experience, and we we blame ourselves for those things, right? And so early on, often, especially for Western little boys, we are taught to be good little boys. If you're good and you listen to mommy and daddy, you will receive time, love, attention. If you are bad and you don't listen to mommy and daddy, I will take that time, that love, and that attention away from you. Well, if you repeat that over and over and over again, what that child begins to understand is, oh, this is a conditional world where I must perform for love. And then you take that same child that's receiving that message from their parents, and then you put them in a school that says, if you don't get this kind of grade, you don't sit in this chair in this particular way for this many hours and always land, then you will be considered a loser. And put on top of that, what do you want to be when you grow up? As if there is one thing to be when we grow up, right? Now, put on top of that, Rambo, Terminator, Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joes, Clint Eastwood, and this idea of man. Remember, born into beliefs and interpretations. What are some of the beliefs and interpretations we grew up with? It's that when you are a man, you have all the answers. When you are a man, you never cry. When you are a man, you have it figured out. And so when a boy who is on his way to manhood is not having that experience, he does one of 2 things. He pushes away, or he leans in and he tries harder. And so it's no wonder that you and myself, right? I'm in my 40s. I'll be 42, right? Went through the process of checking all the boxes, and then only to realize that was empty the whole time. And then you go through this, what they call a midlife crisis, but it's really a midlife awakening. And we don't know when the middle of life is anyway, right? So then we begin to excavate and ask more powerful questions like, what do I want with this life? What do I choose in this lifetime? And what occurs is a beautiful opening, right? A beautiful opening. My mom, I just bought her a house, which is beautiful, right? We just bought the 3rd house in 9 months, last month. One of those is for my mom. And what's beautiful about that is my mom, when I was 33, I moved back in with her. I was pretty broke financially, and didn't understand I didn't know what I didn't know, but I knew that I needed to take a few steps back to take many steps forward. My mom is beautiful. My mom's amazing. My mom grew up being hurt by the masculine, including my dad. And so I can remember being 7, 8 years old And we would be walking down the street. And she said, Preston, where am I at? And I'd go, you're standing next to me, Mommy. She'd say, no, where am I at? She's like, you never let a woman stand on the outside of the street. Your job as a man is to protect women, right? Now, this is really well-intentioned. My mother was trying to create the perfect gentleman. But what she unconsciously did was create a separation between me and her and me and women. Because what my consciousness received was that you are not worthy enough. You are not allowed to be you when women are present. And so the mask, that's another mask, another identity. Oh, I see. So my life is less than women's lives. I must protect women. So by the time I was 13, I was like this chameleon, right? Whatever mommy, whatever my sister, whatever the church wanted from me. And then the moment I got outside, destruction. I needed to kill things. I needed to beat things up. I needed to throw rocks. I needed to spray paint. I did everything you could possibly do outside because it wasn't allowed. My mom tried to beat out the parts of the masculine that she was wounded by. Now we could all sit back and say, oh, that's just an isolated event. It is not. It is almost every man's story I know at some level. And it's not the mom's fault. This is not about fault. This is about consciousness. This is about awareness. Like, how did we get here? Why is sex trafficking at an all-time high? Why is porn like blowing up? It's because there's a whole bunch of good little boys who were trying to do right by mommy and grew up in a time where daddy was off working and disconnected. And we got Homer Simpson and Al Bundy and all these different characters of caricatures of these fat, disconnected men that weren't present and there and setting boundaries with their sons. And so TV and YouTube grew us up while simultaneously receiving messages from our parents and our moms especially that the aspects, our dicks, our bodies, those were wrong. When we start to feel the urge to merge, we had to push back from that because mommy was repressed in that space. Mommy was wounded. Mommy was raped. Mommy was abused. And so she doesn't want to see that in her little boy. And of course, you cannot beat your biology while you're in this skin suit. And so those little boys then create a mask, a separate identity. And then you play that out over 20, 30 years and you find the divorce rate higher than it's ever been. You find that I do these workshops all over the world. And every workshop, whether it's Costa Rica, Africa, London, UK, Australia, anywhere I've been, I will say in that room right before we do an exercise, every room I've ever been in, 90% of that room has been sexually abused, man and woman, mostly at the hands of men. So we're going to do an exercise where we open something up. And I just want you to know that you're not alone. I already know you're not alone. And sure enough, no matter where we are in the world, that's the case. So to me, when I can pull back, all I see is a whole bunch of repression. And what you resist persists. And so you try to push a beach ball underwater, it will slip out and slide out somewhere that I won't say it's not supposed to, but somewhere where it's not useful, somewhere where it's not helpful. To me, this is the long-winded answer to what you have just broken the chains of and what I have broken the chains of. It's huge, bro. You will never see the end of that. Your children's children's children will have an experience. They won't ever know you personally, but they will know the energy that you stepped forward into in this lifetime. And that, for me, is our work. 7 generations. And you broke it.
Appreciate you. Thank you. When it comes to the mask, when it comes to the identity, we're all acting right now. I woke up and I decided to act Chris today. Yes. You're acting Preston.
Yes.
And something of recently, do you know Alison A. Armstrong's work?
I do.
So a lot of people, I was in a funk let's say, I reached out to a lot of people. I shared some stuff, and a lot of them were like, "You're going through the tunnel." And it's been really interesting because, especially a great male friend and mentor was like, "This is all about killing your ego right now. You have," and that's what it felt like. It felt like I currently am, I've got to be honest, shedding a skin that is getting me to ask all the big questions. Who do I want to be? What's the type of father I want to be? Who's the husband I want to be? What's the man I want to be? The friend I want to be? What's the work that I want to create? It's literally why I'm sitting down with you right now, is to try and figure this shit out.
Yes.
When it comes to consciously choosing the identity, maybe even, can I say, use the word story, the story that we tell ourselves. We have a personal crisis when the story we tell ourselves about ourselves is no longer true. And so if someone isn't content or happy or joyful about who they are right now, and I think you are beautifully sowing the seeds of them knowing that they can change, and that's radically important.
Yes.
How does someone then go about to then changing their identity?
Yeah. This is a tough one. Because you nailed it in your first sentence about acting Chris, acting Preston. I don't believe that we can have blank slates, right? I think that the canvas will always have paint on it. But I do believe that and I don't know who the author of this is, but we were taught this in school, that an object in motion stays in motion until an equal or opposite force sends it in a new direction. And for me, that's the difference between change and transformation. I changed a lot over a period of years. But in the last 2 years, I've transformed. And that I believe that's possible for anybody, but it does not negate the biology. What I teach people and what I offer them to begin to look at is we have about 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day. Most of those thoughts are recycled from the day before and the day before and the day before. So what would it look like to introduce 3 new thoughts? What would it look like to bypass and not sidestep, but like recognize, but not be caught by some of those thoughts? Because we are threefold beings: body, mind, and soul. We're at our most powerful when all 3 are aligned, like an arrow. But sometimes the body can be having one conversation, while the mind is having another, while the soul knows the truth. And so to me, our job as conscious choice makers is to merge all 3 of those as much as we possibly can. And for me, I use the backdrop and teach people something that my mentor taught me, which is the 4 stages of consciousness. So the first stage of consciousness is to me. So this is where we believe that the world is happening to us. And to caveat what I'm about to share, we can go through all 4 of these in an hour. The name of the game for me is how much time can I spend in the ones that are more useful for this life. So first stage of consciousness is to me. This is where we believe that we are victims to the weather, to our partners, to the president, to the queen, to our skin suits, etc., etc., etc. We graduate from to me and go to by me. This is where we will things into existence. This is creator consciousness. This is the Grant Cardone, the Gary Vee aspect of us that says, I will make it happen. Right? I will speak what I seek until I see what I said, right? I will will this into existence through my thoughts, my words, and my actions. This is beautiful. And yet the third stage, which is through me, is where we surrender. So to go from to me to by me, it's responsibility. Mm-hmm. To go from by me to through me is surrender. So you created all this stuff, millions of dollars and all of these things, and I got all this business and people are working for me, and I willed this into existence. And then at some point, if you want to move to through me consciousness, where we say, Spirit, God, Buddha, Krishness, what would you have me say? What would you have me do? Who would you have me bless today? Use me as a vessel for your light, for your love, for your intention. For the Christians, it's let thy will be done. So to go from by me, where you create the money, the X, the Y, the Z, to through me, we have to surrender. Mm. That's the scariest one. Because you just got it all. Mm. You just got it, right? Check.
I just reread the Surrender Experiment. It's exactly for what I'm currently going through right now. And it's just fascinating, you know, if I can mirror from what you're saying, because I see it like also in like the archetypes of the by me is the warrior archetype. Yes. And I did really good at that. I could run through walls. I could make it happen. I could persevere. I could grit. It was very interesting. I could almost probably graph it out with the bank balance or Stripe account when what happens with the warrior gets to a point. Yeah. But you can't go any further with that level of energy and consciousness. Yes. And Mozart said, I never wrote a note. I just listened to God. Yes. And that surrender, that needing to surrender is once that finally happens, then, oh my God, everything just starts to open up. Yes. I've got another friend here. He talks about the levels of, there's an employee, there's a manager, there's an entrepreneur, there's an investor, and then there's a wizard. Yes. And he says, if you're working too hard, you're a shit wizard. Yes. I think it's brilliant because when he said that, like I was hurt by it because I knew I was being a shit wizard. Yes. I was like, oh, damn, that's true. That's really, really true. So how do you help someone surrender? And what the hell's the fourth level?
Third level is through me.
Yes.
Fourth level is as me.
Oh.
This is Christ consciousness, the Buddha nature. This is that moment when the Mali hits, that moment when the mushrooms are really there, the moment in ceremony, the moment when you're in church and you get the Holy Spirit and you know there's nothing to say, nothing to do, nowhere to go because God is. That is just supreme alignment. And it's the moment in meditation where you become no thing. For me, one of my favorite quotes comes from this movie / art exhibit called Ashes and Snow. And in the documentary, I'll never forget this. This was like 12 years ago. I heard him say it and it just, they said, ever since my house burned down, I see the moon more clearly. And I think what you're experiencing, what I've been experiencing, is our house burning down. And what it's opened up is like, for the sake of what? Right? I did all that for the sake of what? And now what? Right? So to surrender is to let go of the attachment of what it needs to look like. To surrender is to listen to the intuition, whether that comes through as a clear thought, a body hit, a sign, right? We know. In my childhood, and for many years, I've had survivor's guilt because there's been multiple times where something has occurred where a friend or somebody's asked me to do something, I will get a sensation. This is starting at 15. Don't go. My body said, don't go. And then all of them were shot and killed. When I met my wife, I was on a blind date. She knocked on the door. At that time, I had declared that I was calling in my one. I posted on Instagram that morning a picture of 2 wolves kissing. And I said, I can feel her coming. ... Hashtag wifey, hashtag the queen is on her way. Well, I had a blind date set up that night. She knocked on the door. I opened the door. It wasn't her. I knew it. I knew it. So I invited her upstairs. I went into my room. I sat still and I said, Spirit, am I supposed to go on this date? Because I don't want to go. This isn't it. Boom. Yes. I'm like, really? Yes. Get dressed. Start driving. Every red light. Skirt, skirt, skirt. Every red light on the way to the thing. Right? We finally get there. We run to the door. They say, oh my God, we're so sorry. We oversold the show. We can give you your money back or you can stand on the wall. Go in. Okay? Go in. Because I don't want to be on this date. Right? And this is internal dialogue I'm having. Go in. Okay, you know what? We'll go in. We'll stand on the wall. We walk in. The gentleman says, okay, you guys stand here with this group of people. Right? We oversold the show by 10 to 20 seats. You stand here. He sits us there, like stands us up against the wall, takes a few steps, stops as if something grabbed him, turns back around, looks at me and my blind date and says, you know what? You two, come here. I'm going to add 2 more seats to the front row. This is a fire hazard, so if something happens, you got to get these seats up. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Right? Sit here. My date sits here. Next to her, my wife.
No way.
And I knew it instantly. I literally knew it. I was like, we had conversated through Facebook, never met ever. I thought she lived in London. When we talked on Facebook, she was in London. And when I saw her, I was like, oh my God. I was like, Alexi? She was like, Preston? I was like, I thought you lived in London. She said, no, I just moved to LA. I was like, shut the front door. Like, so I'm trying to play it cool, but like, I know this is my wife. I just met her, just laid eyes on her. The whole show, I'm literally not paying attention to anything that's occurring. I'm thinking to myself, on all the people I've ever dated, on all the moments in my entire life, I just literally ran into my wife. Now we get to go through the process of figuring out how we become husband and wife.
Especially with someone sitting in between.
Yes. The girl sitting next to me, every time there was like a intermission, we would start talking. And she was in the middle, kind of like this the whole time, like, what the hell is happening? And she could feel me pull back. We drove home. Now, this is even funnier. I'm going to end this story, but this is really funny. So the show ends. Everybody stands up. And Alexi's talking to somebody, I'm talking to somebody, and we're like, okay, we're gonna leave. So I kind of walk up to her and I'm like nervous, I'm sweating, everything's coming up. And we hug each other, okay, bye. And I didn't want to let go of the hug. And so she stayed in it. So now we're just standing there hugging in silence. And then I let go and I go, well, if you're ever around for coffee, I would love to meet up with you one day. Yes, maybe. And she's like, yeah, I'll send you my number or whatever. And I'm like, perfect. See you soon. And like literally like full mess, bro. Full mess. It's ridiculous. I drive the blind date home. The whole time I'm just thinking, I just met my wife. We get out of the car. I walk her to her car. She's like, do you want me to come up? I'm like, no. She tries to kiss me. I'm like, don't do that. I like appreciate you, but I'm pretty sure I just met my wife. And I told her that.
Wow.
And that girl, her name is Eva. We're still friends. Mm. She met her husband maybe 4 years later. She has a little baby girl. Like everything worked out. Mm. But like that's what I mean by listening to that voice. Mm. Whether it is a voice or a hit in the body or something else, when we're listening, If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you, right? And I don't think Jesus meant like for lifetimes. I think it meant right now. All roads lead to the same place. But when you don't listen, this tree was supposed to grow like this. If it grows like that, but its essence wants to grow like this, it's still going to work. But this is its dharma. Trees have consciousness. Now, as reaching toward the sun, we get to do the same. The reach and the instructions come from within, though. And that, to me, is the number one lesson when it comes to success.
Beautiful place to end it. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. That was really, really beautiful. That was incredible. Where does everyone go to be able to find more of the absolute magic that is Preston?
Thank you, sir. PrestonSmiles.com. You can find everything there.
All right, amazing. I'll make sure to link to everything. My cup feels full. I really appreciate this, dude. There is so many more things I want to ask, but we're going to have to make this part one of part many.
Yes.
So thank you so much. You're an incredible dude. You really are. You are just, you are dripping in greatness, and I appreciate that. So thank you for sharing so much today.
I received, man. Thank you so much. And big appreciation to you. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for listening to that voice. Thank you for daring greatly. Thank you for your willingness to be vulnerable and try something that may or may not work out to society's standards. Thank you for teaching your children by way of the demonstration that you can always get back up. That, like I said, you'll never see the end of. There will be generations that will only slightly know your name, but they will know your energy. They will know your bravery. They will know your courage. That is our work. And I'm grateful to be doing it side by side with you.
Thanks, bro.
Yes, sir.
Beautiful.